Hello everyone. I'd just like to say Happy New Year to all of you, and I hope that you sow plenty of good projects in 2024 and really enjoy yourselves. I'd also like to say thank you to all our subscribers and for all those people who give us a thumbs up and like us, like the channel, because that really is encouraging. Today's project is going to be a humbag, and I will just show you what a humbag is and what you'll need to make it. This is a humbag. It's shaped like an old English humbug that we used to have, lollies that we used to have as children. It has a vertical seam at the end of the zip and a horizontal seam on one side. And I used this one and made this one just to keep my pieces of binding in that I didn't use for all my various quilts. So when I come to make an I Spy quilt, I've got them all in one spot. So I just use that one for that, and I think that sits really nice. This one is one that I've just made up. It's just made in a nice bright fabric. It has a different kind of lining. You can choose whatever fabrics you like. Try and work out of your cupboard rather than buy fabrics. And it just sits really nice. You can, of course, put your scissors inside, and if you look, where your scissor handles are deeper, that will fit your bag, so you're not going to have to go round in the bottom of the bag trying to find the handles for that. The other one that I've done is a smaller one, and in this one you can do them any size you like. I just keep my fabric clips in here. They just sit nicely in there, and when I'm not filling it right up, you can just fold flat at the ends. Now for this project you will need a lining fabric and a top fabric. I'm using 14 inches by 11, but the thing to remember is whatever size you make it, your zip must be the same length as your short end. This is your long end, this is your short end. Your zip needs to be the length of the short end. And you'll need 3 pieces of fabric. You will need the lining fabric, which I've chosen just a cream spot. You will need a piece of Parlin or Pellin if you live in Australia. Parlin if you live anywhere else, I think. I'm using the iron-on just to keep it nice and flat, and a top piece of fabric. Also, when you've got your zip, I've just got a little zip puller. I don't know what the proper name for them is, but that just hooks onto the end of the zip when I've finished. And the first thing we're going to do is layer these three pieces, right side out, Pellin on the top, and then right side up for your main fabric. The next step is we're going to quilt this piece. So as you can see on here, the quilting lines are just there. You don't need to quilt it very much. So I've measured halfway along, and with my iron-off pen I've just drawn a line halfway along, and then halfway along from there to there again, and across there. And I'm just going to sew down those lines and keep all that will secure all of these layers together. So I'll come back when I've done that. I forgot to mention you will need a zipper foot. You can manage without one, but it's very handy if you've got a zipper foot to use it. I'm not the world's best zipper sewer, but if I can do it, you can do it. I've just quilted across and down as I showed you. Now the reason I said about your zip being the same length as the short end, the reason is if you were doing a bigger bag, of course you need a bigger zip, but the bag will actually be like that. So you've got to make sure that your zip fits that to fasten it. Now take your zip and put it right sides down. I'll actually put it that way around for you, easier to see probably. Right side down, and you're going to sew with the right side of the zip. You're going to sew along this edge. Now you need to be very careful that you don't catch the zip puller in. So I'm going to start at the open end, the closed end, I think. But you do it whichever way you find easier. Sometimes you can find it easier to start at the open end, sometimes at the finish. So it needs to be stitched with the zip facing down across here first. About a quarter, don't catch the teeth in whatever you do. about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in across here. I've stitched the zip on like I just showed you. I did the overlock the edge as well, because when I unzip something I don't like all the frayed pieces showing and catching in, so you end up with it looking like so. Now you're going to bring it over just a little bit. Use my little pointer so I get my hands out of the way, up to the teeth, and then you're going to stitch very close to that edge using your zipper foot. You're going to stitch close to the edge, close to the teeth, all the way down. You will find it helps if you undo your zipper a little bit rather than try and get round this puller at the top. So I'm going to stitch that now on the top, just fold it close up there, just a little bit, and stitch very close to the edge there. Top stitch it. I'll give it a good press before I stitch so that it sits nicely. You can pin it on. So if I take a pin, remember when you're stitching you must pull your pins out, so you can just stitch it close to the teeth just there. Make sure that your zip doesn't catch in. Now I've got a pin in there, so obviously it's not going to go past that pin, but make sure that you can open and close your zip. So the first side of the zipper is in. Just hold it, make sure you can open it and close it. Now the next step is to right side up, do exactly the same thing on the other edge. Now you've got 2 quilting lines to line up. It's important that you get them lined up so that when your bag is open they match. So put that there, just pin it. You can pin it anywhere on this actually. Pin it there and do exactly the same again. You're going to sew first your zipper down with your zipper foot down. I neaten the edge at that point, and then we're going to have to turn it inside out. Now it's a little bit tricky, but it's well worth the effort. So I'm going to stitch now, pin and stitch along there, and then do exactly the same as I did on the first side of the zip, and then I'll come back and show you what's next. My zip, the first line of stitching on my zip, it's done. I have neatened the edge. I've turned it this way. Oh, that was sharp. Now this is the important bit. Those 2 quilting lines need to line up, so when you stitch, when your zip closes, they need to line up. I don't know if you can see that. That line of quilting comes exactly opposite the other. So open the zip. Now we're going to stitch this side on. I've folded it under just a little bit, just the same as we did the first edge. We're going to stitch down here. You're going to stitch almost to the bottom, but you will have to open, your zip is open, so you will have to close your zip just to stitch the last little bit at the bottom. My zip is all in nicely now, zips up very nicely. I've trimmed all the spare cottons off the end. I'm going to turn this inside out. The end where the zip goes up to the top is going to be vertical, so I'm going to stitch, I will open it up though, if not I won't get it open. I'm going to stitch down that edge, I'll turn it that way for you. I'm going to stitch down the top end vertical to the bottom, but I will overlock, just zigzag or over sew the edge to keep it nice and thread free, and then I'll come back, and the bottom edge is the horizontal edge, so instead of being like top to bottom, it's going to be side to side at the bottom. I will do the same across here and just zigzag it, over stitch it so it doesn't fray, and then I'll come back and talk to you. I've turned the bag to the right side. There's the flat seam across the bottom, the vertical seam at the back. Zips up really nicely. There you have your handbag, and you can make any amount of them, any size. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Do remember to give us a thumbs up and subscribe, because it really is encouraging, and the pattern for this will be in my Etsy shop, So go along and have a look. All of my patterns are in there, so good, have a good browse through. And I will be back in a little while with to show you an easier way, with a handy hint to show you an easier way to make a humbag. For those of you who don't like necessarily sewing a zip in a cylinder shape of fabric. So until next time, I will see you then.